open our Bible to the book of Isaiah 66. Isaiah 66, Judgment and Hope. Judgment and Hope. Isaiah 66, verses 1 to 6. God looks at the heart, and vengeance is threatened for guilt. Verses 1 to 3. Throughout the entire writing, Isaiah has been faithfully relating what Yahweh has told and shown him, and he makes that point clear again as he closes. A prophet is nothing at all unless he or she is an authoritative spokesperson for Yahweh. Yahweh speaker in this section has heaven for a throne and earth for a footstool. He has no need for people to build him a house, a temple. He does not go hungry, whether or not animals are burnt on altars. Verses 2 to 3. Worship ceremonies should have inspired the people to keep their hearts and minds focused in Yahweh. But the Israelites had gradually lost their love for Yahweh, yet they had continued to pray and sacrifice as mere rituals, and their actions became blatantly offensive to Yahweh. Be very careful to check yourself when Yahweh does not show you a sign that he hears and answers your prayers. For what Yahweh desires from his people is not the toughness certificate, but rather a contrite, which means remorseful, repentant spirit, and a sense of humility. And humility is the result of the fear of and obedience to Yahweh. Verse 3. In graphic terms, Yahweh points out that the people have lost any sense of distinguishing the holy from the unholy. Dogs and pigs are unclean animals, and the very thought of using them in a sacrifice to Yahweh has been horrific, even more so. Their sacrifices, they are sacrificing even mice. It says, the scripture says, the pig is also unclean. Although it has a divided hoof, it does not chew the cud. You are not to eat their meat or touch their carcasses. End of quote. This is quoting Deuteronomy 14 verse 8. But don't see things here in the physical. It is not about physically eating pig or dogs. We should understand that Yahweh in Deuteronomy 14 verse 8 means do not cling to such people who are like pigs. When they live in luxury, they forget Yahweh. But when they are in need, they remember Yahweh. just like the pig. When it is eating, it does not know its master. But when hungry, it cries out until it gets its food. And then is silence again. This is quoting the non-canonical letter of Barnabas 10 verse 3. Dogs are sexually perverse animals that even eat their own vomits. We see the people who are like that. They are sexually perverse, and they can even go with their they can commit incest with their own people, daughters, sisters, brothers. When Yahweh talks of eating, he talks of eating, he does not mean it physically. Eating spiritually means taking something in you, into your self, into your soul. For example, the word of God is to be eaten. This is what Yahweh gave Apostle John to eat, I quote. So I went to the angel and said to him, give me the little book. And he said to me, take and eat it, and it will make your stomach bitter, but it will be as sweet as honey in your mouth. Then I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it, and it was as sweet as honey in my mouth. But when I had eaten it, my stomach became bitter. And he said to me, you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings. End of quote. This is quoting Revelation 10 verses 9 to 11. This is also what our Lord Yeshua said about unclean animals. Yeshua called the crowd to him and said, listen and understand. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth, that is what defiles them. End of quote. This is quoting Matthew 15 verse 10. So Jewish sacrifices had finally become more than animal abuse, and Yahweh deemed their so-called devotion to him the equivalent of idol worship. Please, don't behave like the Jews who sacrifice to Yahweh. Don't fast, pray, and make offerings just to accomplish a ritual. For what Yahweh wants to see is how in doing these things you change from the old man or the old woman, if you want, into the old man you were, into the newborn in Christ. You want to be a newborn with a contrite heart and humble soul. Verses 3 to 4. Throughout Isaiah, Yahweh has made clear distinctions between the righteous and the wicked, and the prophet's writing concludes with yet another instance. Those who choose their own ways and delight in abominations will experience great dread as the judgment of Yahweh comes upon them. He has spoken, but they neither listen nor respond. let me repeat myself here. The Jews gloried much in their temple. But what satisfaction can the eternal mind take in a house made with people's hand? Yahweh has a heaven and an earth as his own making, and temples of man's making, but he overlooks them so that he may look with favor to the one who is poor in spirit and serious, self-abasing and self-denying, whose heart truly sorrows for sin. Such a heart is a living temple for Yahweh. The sacrifice of the wicked is not only unacceptable, but a great offense to our God. And anyone who now offers a sacrifice after the law does in effect set aside Christ's sacrifice. He who burns incense puts contempt upon the incense of Christ's intercession, and is as if he or she blessed an idol. People will be deceived by the vain confidences they deceive themselves with. Unbelieving hearts and unpurified consciences do not need to make them more miserable than to have their own fears brought upon them. Whatever people put as a replacement of the priesthood, atonement, and intercession of Yahshua will be found hateful to Yahweh. Isaiah 66 verses 5 to 14. The increase of the church when Jew and Gentile will be gathered to the Redeemer. Verses 5 to 6. Judgment is for those who reject Yahweh, but others will hear his word and respond in fearful reverence. The obedient have been hated, mocked, and scorned by the wicked, yet Yahweh has seen and heard it all. He will mete out terrible punishment for the evil that has been done. Verses 11 to 12. The faithful are in for a surprise. Yahweh will renew his land and his people, and it will be both sudden and delightful. It will be like the joy of having a child, but without the discomfort of labor pains. Zion, the temple of Yahweh, will give birth to her children, and a new nation will be born in a day. The people will have Jerusalem, the church of Yahweh, as a mother. Verses 13 to 14. Yahweh himself will provide the comfort that a mother offers a child. The righteous will be rewarded with new life and joyful hearts. The previous injustice of life are brought to an end with Yahweh's just and fair judgments. The prophet turns to those who trembled at God's word to comfort and encourage them. Yahweh will appear to the joy of the humble believer and to the confusion of hypocrites and persecutors. When the Spirit was poured out and the gospel went forth from Zion, multitudes were converted in a little time. The word of God especially his promises and ordinances are the consolations of the church. The true happiness of all Christ followers is increased by every convert brought to Yeshua. The gospel brings with it, wherever it is received in its power, such a river of faith as will carry us to the ocean of boundless and endless bliss. Divine comforts reach the inward man, the inner man, the spirit. The joy of Yahweh will be the strength of the believer. Both Yahweh's mercy and justice shall be manifested and forever magnified. Isaiah 16 verses 15 to 24. Every enemy of the church shall be destroyed, and the final ruin of ungodly people shall be seen. Verses 15 to 16. Yahweh will be coming with fire and sword in his judgment. His fury and judgment will be widespread. Isaiah never attempts to downplay the severity of these horrible news. Yet the reality of Yahweh's furious judgment is offset by another reality. Verses 18 to 21. When Jerusalem, the church, is re-established, Yahweh's grace and mercy will extend to all nations, not only to the Jews. The righteous will he send out to faraway lands where people will hear of Yahweh's love and travel to Jerusalem, the church, to worship him, bringing back with them others from Israel, his people, who have been relocated. Some of those from other nations will even become priests and temple workers. This prophecy has been fulfilled with the coming of Yeshua, and we rejoice in it now. Listen, when Father Yahweh says in verse 21, I quote, and I will select some of them also to be priests and Levites, end of quote, he does not make a difference between men and women, which some of our worldly churches do. Women are allowed, just like men, to serve as priests and servants of Yahweh's temple, the church of Christ. Verses 22 to 24. In his original call for Abraham to leave Ur and go to an yet unrevealed land, Yahweh had promised that all people on earth will be blessed through the great union that Abraham would become in Genesis 12 verses 1 to 3. This final image in Isaiah describes the fulfillment of that promise. Yahweh will establish new heavens, a new earth, and an enduring kingdom, with the unrighteous removed. In the judgment of Yahweh, the righteous remnant, the remnant of all humankind will bow down and worship the Lord in joy and peace. A prophetic declaration is given of Yahweh's vengeance on all enemies of his church, especially that of the anti-Christian opponents of the gospel in the latter days. In verses 19 to 20, Those who were seen by the Jews as the uncircumcised sinners are referred to here. These expressions, in particular the specific nations listed, are figurative and express the plentiful and gracious helps for bringing Yahweh's elect home to Christ. All are welcome to Yeshua, and nothing will be wanting for their assistance and encouragement. A gospel ministry shall be set up in the church. They should have solemn worship before Yahweh. In the last verse, the nature of the punishment of sinners is the world to come. The nature of the punishment of sinner in the world to come is represented. Then will the righteous and the wicked be separated. Our Savior applies this to the everlasting misery and torment of impenitent sinners in the future state. To the honor of that free grace with which thus distinguishes them, let the redeemed of Yahweh with humility and not without holy trembling sing triumphant songs. With this affecting representation of the opposite states of the righteous and wicked characters that include the whole human race, Isaiah concludes his prophecies. May Yahweh grant for Christ's sake that our portion may be with those who fear and love his name, who cleave to his truth and persevere in every good work, looking to receive from the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, the gracious invitation. Come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. End of quote. Know this, and the Lord Yahweh will bless you. Let us take these prayer points. Let us pray Isaiah 66. Heaven is Yahweh's throne, and the earth is his footstool. In the name of Yeshua, there is no house man can build that is worth Yahweh's resting place. In the name of Yeshua. For Yahweh's hand has made all these things, and so they came into being. In the name of Yeshua. The ones our Almighty Father looks on with favor are those who are humble and contrite in spirit, and who tremble at his word. In the name of Yeshua. But in Yahweh's eyes, whoever sacrifices a bull is like one who kills a person. In the name of Yeshua. In the Lord's eyes, whoever offers a lamb is like one who breaks a dog's neck. In the name of Yeshua. In Yahweh's eyes, whoever makes a grain offering is like one who presents pig's blood. In the name of Yeshua. In the Lord's eyes, whoever burns memorial incense is like one who worships an idol. In the name of Yeshua. Those who have chosen their own ways, Yahweh also chooses a harsh treatment for them. In the name of Yeshua. Those who delight in their abomination, Lord Yahweh, bring on them what they dread. In the name of Yeshua. For those who delight in the abomination, Father, Lord, bring on them what they dread. For when Father Yahweh called, none of them answered. When he spake, no one listened. in the name of Yeshua. They did evil in Yahweh's sight with their sacrifices. They chose what displeases him in the name of Yeshua. Let us hear the word of Yahweh, we who tremble at his word in the name of Yeshua. Our own people who hate us have mockingly said that Yahweh will not be glorified in the name of Yeshua. Our own people who exclude us because of Yahweh's name have mockingly said that we may not have joy in the name of Yeshua. Yet they will be put to shame, for in an uproar comes from the temple